Every story has a turning point, a moment when everything changes. The turning point.
The room smelled like coffee and paper. Too much paper. Thick legal folders, manila envelopes, embossed documents with too many signatures, and not enough fairness. I sat there on the edge of a leather chair that squeaked every time I shifted, trying to stay composed while the lawyer droned on in a dry monotone. And to Mr. Matthew Aldridge, the testator bequeaths all financial assets, including brokerage accounts held with Ironbridge Wealth and Harrington Investments, totaling approximately $872,000 at the time of certification. I stopped breathing. Matt, my brother, exhaled slowly, and I heard it. That smug little breath that always meant, I win. His wife squeezed his hand like they'd just hit a jackpot. The lawyer kept reading, oblivious to the way my world was caving in. And to Mrs. Eleanor Blake, the testator leaves the property located at 64 Briarwood Lane, Woodvale, Alabama. A pause. The lawyer looked up briefly, as if expecting me to nod or say thank you. I didn't. I couldn't. The property, not even the house, just a property. Ryan, my husband, let out a soft chuckle beside me. Guess we're moving up in the world, he muttered under his breath. Hope you like termites. I felt my cheeks flush. I didn't respond. I stared straight ahead like none of it touched me, like I couldn't feel them looking, judging. When the reading ended, there were papers to sign. A folder handed to me with the deed. Ryan barely glanced at it before tucking it into his briefcase like he was helping me carry shame. The ride home was quiet. Too quiet. I stared out the window. Ryan drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, humming a tune I couldn't place. You're not seriously upset about this, are you? He finally asked. I didn't answer. Elle, come on. Your dad made his choice. Matt was always more financially stable. Maybe he trusted him with the big stuff. I turned to him slowly. He didn't even speak to Matt the last 2 years of his life. He shrugged. Still, maybe he wanted you to have something simple, peaceful, something you could actually handle. I turned back to the window. When we got home, I walked straight into the bedroom and shut the door. Ryan didn't follow. I needed space, and I think he was more than happy to give it. I sat on the edge of the bed, the folder in my lap. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside were old photos, the kind you think no one keeps, but somehow always survive. My father and I, standing in front of that old house in Alabama. I was missing a tooth. Holding a blue popsicle. He was smiling. He never smiled for pictures. I swallowed hard. The ache in my throat was rising now. Not just from sadness, but from something heavier. Something like doubt. Matt was always more responsible. No, something was off. My father, for all his flaws, he believed in fairness, always. 50-50, right down the middle, even with desserts when we were kids. I stared at the photo again, the peeling paint, the lopsided porch, and my grinning face in front of it all. Maybe I needed to go there, not just to see the house, but to breathe, to think, to feel something real again. The next morning, I told Ryan I was driving to Woodvale. Just for a couple days, I said. He didn't look up from his phone. I'd be careful. Town like that, people get stuck. People like me, right? I packed a small bag and left before the sun was fully up. He didn't even walk me to the door. By the time I crossed into Alabama, the tension in my chest had loosened a little. The air was thicker, slower, greener. like the land itself was exhaling. I didn't know what I was looking for. Closure, maybe? Or something my father meant for me to find. When I turned down Briarwood Lane and saw that rusted red mailbox, it felt like stepping into a memory I didn't know I missed. The house stood exactly as I remembered, and yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something inside it was waiting, something that didn't want to be forgotten. The gravel crunched beneath my tires as I pulled up to the house. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at it through the windshield, hands clenched on the steering wheel. It was exactly as I remembered, and somehow so much worse. The porch sagged in the middle like an old man's spine. One of the shutters hung on a single hinge, barely holding on. A wind chime clinked in the breeze, soft and eerie. I didn't remember anyone ever putting that there. This was what I got. I turned off the engine and stepped out of the car into warm, sticky air. Alabama summer. It wrapped around me like a damp blanket. I took a breath. Pine, dust, and something else. Mildew, of course. The front door resisted, but the key finally turned with a grudging click. It creaked open, and I stood in the doorway, letting the musty air hit me. It smelled like time, like silence, like something left behind too long. The living room was a museum of the past. Same couch, same floral rug, that ancient lamp with the yellow shade, everything covered in dust, like the house had been holding its breath. I didn't bother with the lights. Somehow flipping a switch felt too optimistic. I walked in slowly, careful not to disturb the air too much. My footsteps stirred memories I wasn't ready to look at. The kitchen still had the rotary phone on the wall, cream-color plastic and a twisted cord. And there, by the sink, was a calendar. 5 years old, one date circled in red. Matt, 11:30 a.m. Harrington. I froze. Harrington. That was the firm that handled the financial accounts. I stared at that circle for a long moment, then I turned away. The hallway creaked under my feet. I peeked into the bedroom, everything still in place. Neat, tidy, unused. The bed made, the comforter folded. My father had always kept things in order, even when life wasn't. Then I stepped into the study. This was the core, his world. The bookshelves still overflowed with mystery novels and financial guides. His massive wooden desk looked untouched. Everything where he'd left it. Pens lined up, folders labeled. A shrine to discipline. I ran my fingers along the desk and sank into the creaky leather chair. The weight of it all settled into my shoulders. None of this made sense. He wouldn't have left things uneven. That wasn't like him. Even when I was 10, he split birthday gifts between Matt and me to the cent. I started going through the drawers, one by one. Bills, tax forms, old bank statements. Nothing useful. Nothing damning. And then, at the bottom of the bookshelf, behind 2 dusty photo albums, I saw it. A small, carved wooden box. My box. I pulled it out, gently. Dust clung to its corners. My name, Eleanor, was still carved on the lid in my own shaky teenage handwriting. I'd made this in high school woodshop. I thought it was awful. I almost threw it out, but I left it here after college. He kept it. The latch stuck for a second before clicking open. Inside was an envelope. Thick, cream-colored paper. No address, no stamps, just for Eleanor. My throat tightened. I ran my fingers across the letters. Dad. I opened it slowly, hands trembling. It was a will. Another will, dated 3 months earlier than the one the lawyer read. I scanned it, my eyes moving faster with every line. All financial assets, including investments, stocks, and bonds, are to be divided equally between my children, Matthew Aldridge and Eleanor Blake. The property located at 64 Briarwood Lane shall be left to Eleanor Blake in full. There it was, equal, just like I thought, just like he always promised. But that's not what we heard in the lawyer's office. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some forgotten draft. This was the real one. The last one. My pulse roared in my ears. I turned the paper over. There, at the bottom, a notary stamp. Not the name I remembered, not Charles Yates, the one Ryan golfed with every Saturday. A different notary. A different truth. It clicked all at once. Ryan. He'd been too calm, too smug, like he already knew what the will would say. He did know. He and Matt. Of course. They were in it together. I stared at the document again, then gently folded it and placed it back in the box. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. Not anymore. I felt something rising that I hadn't felt in a long time. Anger. Clarity. Rage. They thought I'd just swallow it, that I'd sit back and nod like a good girl while they stole what was mine. Not this time. This house wasn't a punishment. It was a key. And now that I had it, I was going to unlock everything. The next morning, I woke to the sound of birds and nothing else. No cars, no voices, no Ryan tapping away on his phone, just open air and morning sun bleeding through the torn blinds. It felt almost peaceful, until I remembered why I was here. I sat at the old kitchen table with a cup of instant coffee. The will, the real will, was spread out in front of me, anchored by a salt shaker so it wouldn't curl back up. I'd read it 5 times already. Still hadn't magically turned into a dream. It was real. It had a notary stamp, a signature, dated 3 months before the one the lawyer had read aloud in that soulless office. So how the hell did that other version become official? I opened my laptop, yes, somehow the Wi-Fi still worked, and started digging. The notary on my father's real will was a woman named Camille Donovan. She operated out of a mobile office and specialized in home visits for elderly clients. Her name checked out. She was real, licensed. And then I checked the name on the other will, Charles Yates. I didn't need to look him up. He was Ryan's poker buddy. They met every Thursday night at Joe's Bar and Grill. He'd come over for barbecues, sent us a bottle of wine when we bought our first house. And I was stupid enough to think that meant he was trustworthy. I stared at the screen, the dots connecting so clearly now it almost made me sick. Ryan helped Matt get what he wanted. He used his connection with Charles to override my father's wishes, to make it look official. And then he sat next to me during the reading like none of it mattered. Like I didn't matter. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my recent calls. My thumb hovered over Matt's name. I had to hear it from him. I pressed dial. Ring, ring. Click. Ellie? He answered casually like I'd just called to chat. You finally settling into that little palace of yours? Cut the crap, Matt. He went quiet for a beat. Wow. Okay. What's this about? I found the will, the real one, the one Dad signed before yours. Silence. Ellie, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. No, I really don't. You know, this grief thing, it messes with people's memory. Maybe you found some old draft. Dad was forgetful toward the end. Don't insult me. Look, Elle, I'm not going to argue with you. The will that was read is the one that went through probate. That's the one that matters. End of story. I held the phone tight, my nails pressing into my palm. Did Ryan help you? What? Did Ryan help you swap it? You used his friend Charles. You think I don't remember who notarized that piece of garbage you had read out loud? Matt didn't say anything for a few seconds. I could hear him breathing. Then, whatever you think you found, Elle, it's not valid. And even if it was, it's too late. You'd be opening a legal nightmare. You mean for you? Click. He hung up. I stared at the phone. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't nerves. It was fury. I'd expected lies, but the ease with which he told them, the practice, made it worse. I texted Ryan, "Call me. Now." No reply. 10 minutes, nothing. So I called. He declined. Twice. Coward. I sat back in the chair, heart racing. 1,000 thoughts swirling. I wanted to scream, to drive straight back and confront them both in person. But I knew better. This wasn't just personal, it was criminal. Forgery, fraud, manipulation of probate documents. I had the original. I had the timestamp. I had a legal notary on record. What I needed now was help. Not from Ryan, not from Matt, not from anyone I knew. I opened a new tab and searched. Estate fraud, legal assistance, Alabama. The first few links were noise, ads. But then I saw one, a small firm, not flashy, just a name, Meredith Graves, attorney at law, specializing in probate disputes and contested wills. I bookmarked it. I'd call tomorrow. Tonight I would sleep. But for the first time since the reading, I wasn't grieving. I was planning, and they had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I didn't wait. As soon as the sun climbed over the tree line, I was on the phone with the law office I'd bookmarked the night before. "Meredith Graves, probate law," a young voice answered. "Hi, yes, I found a second will, an earlier one actually, that contradicts the one used in probate for my father's estate. I think it may have been forged or replaced." A pause. "You found a prior will? Do you have a copy?" "Yes, signed, notarized, with a completely different division of assets. We need to see it. Can you come in today?" "I'm 3 hours out, but I'll drive in." I grabbed the wooden box, tucked it in a canvas tote, and got in the car. The will stayed on my passenger seat the entire drive, like a passenger I didn't dare let out of sight. By the time I arrived at the office, a small brick building tucked between a nail salon and a bail bond shop, I was already rehearsing what I'd say. Meredith Graves looked nothing like I expected. Late 50s, sharp gray bob, wearing jeans and a blazer like she didn't have time to impress anyone. She invited me in without small talk. "Show me what you've got," she said, sliding her glasses up her nose. I laid out the will, then the deed, then the envelope. I explained the timeline, the reading, my husband's relationship with the other notary. Her eyes didn't blink once. "This is serious." I nodded. "If your father signed this version later and it was notarized by someone licensed and independent, then this is the valid will, not the one they used. What they did could be considered fraud, possibly conspiracy to defraud an heir." So it wasn't just in my head. "I'll need to verify the notary's credentials and start paperwork to contest the probate, but I need you to understand, this could get ugly." "I'm ready for ugly," I said. "I've been living in quiet and polite for too long." I left the office feeling steadier. I wasn't just some overlooked daughter with a dusty house. I had evidence. I had someone who believed me. When I got home, the voicemail was already waiting. Ryan. "Ellie, hey. I saw you called a few times. Sorry, I was tied up. You okay down there?" I hit delete before he finished. 2 minutes later, the phone buzzed again. He was calling. I answered. "There she is," he said, cheerful. Too cheerful. I was starting to think you'd run off and become a farmer. Don't. A pause. Don't what? Don't pretend. I know. Know what, Ellie? I found the real Will. Silence. You're confused. Save it. I know you were in on it. You used your buddy Charles to push a fake through probate. You helped Matt steal from me. Ellie, look, you're upset. You're in that house all alone, and stop talking to me like I'm unstable. I'm not. I'm just saying maybe you misread the document. People see what they want to see when they're... I've already spoken to a lawyer. The will I found is notarized, dated, and valid. You and Matt are going to be dealing with that in court. Court? Ellie, do you even know how expensive that'll be? How long it takes? You really want to drag this through lawyers and judges and depositions over a bunch of stocks and some family drama? Oh, now it's just family drama? I laughed, short and bitter. You helped him forge a legal document, Ryan. Ellie, I want you out of the house by the time I'm back. Wait, what? Ellie, come on, don't do this. Let's talk face to face. I'm done talking. Click. I stood there, phone in hand, heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. But it wasn't fear this time. It was power. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't swallowing things to keep the peace. I wasn't pretending. I wasn't keeping quiet. I was choosing myself. I looked around the dusty living room. The cracked lamp, the peeling paint, the floors that creaked like they had secrets of their own. And I smiled. Let them squirm. They'd underestimated the wrong person. I didn't drive home slowly. No scenic detours, no podcasts, just my hands tight on the wheel and one thought pounding through my head like a drum. They lied to me. They stole from me, and I was done pretending not to notice. When I pulled into the driveway, Ryan's car was still there. Of course it was. Our perfect little house looked just as I left it. White shutters, clean yard, not a single thing out of place. On the outside, at least. I stepped inside. The air smelled like lemon cleaner, an artificial calm. But I could hear them. Voices. In the kitchen. Ryan and Matt. I moved down the hallway slowly, quiet as I could, heart hammering in my ears. She'll come around, Matt said. She always does. Gets mad, sulks a few days, then lets it go. This time feels different, Ryan muttered. She found something. I don't know what, but she's not texting me back. So what? She's not going to do anything. She's not built for that kind of fight. She already called a lawyer. You think she's bluffing? Even if she's not, what's she really going to do? Drag us through court? Over what, an old piece of paper? That was enough. I stepped into the room. The look on their faces? Worth it. Don't stop on my account. Ryan's mouth dropped slightly. Matt blinked, then forced a smile. Ellie, he said, back so soon? Turns out, I didn't need a vacation. Just a reminder of who I can't trust. Ryan stepped toward me. Hey, listen. I'm not interested in listening, Ryan. Not anymore. I walked to the table and dropped the envelope Meredith had given me right in front of them. What's that? Matt asked. It's called a legal petition. You'll be getting your copy soon. You're kidding. You filed something? Ryan asked, his voice tight. I did. Turns out forging a will with your poker buddy isn't just scummy, it's illegal. Ryan looked at Matt. Matt looked at me. Then he laughed. Ellie, come on. You found some dusty paper in a box and think you've got a case? I've got more than a case. I've got a valid will, notarized, with a licensed witness. Your version? Stamped by your drinking buddy. Matt scoffed. You don't really want to go down this road, Elle. You'll make a mess of everything. Family, finances, reputation. You should have thought of that before you stole from me. I looked at Ryan. You sat there while I cried, while I blamed myself. And you knew, the whole time you knew. I didn't want to hurt you. No, you just wanted the money. Ryan looked away. What do you want, Ellie? I want you out of the house. That stunned him. Wait, what? You heard me. You have until tomorrow. Matt let out a breath and looked genuinely annoyed. This is ridiculous. Unbelievable. I'm done being quiet, I said. I'm done being the reasonable one. I picked up the envelope again and held it like a weapon. You thought I'd just accept it? Just take that broken down house and disappear. But guess what? That house had the truth in it. My dad left me more than wood and memories. He left me proof. Ryan sat down slowly, like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. Matt grabbed his keys and muttered something under his breath. Good luck in court. And then he was gone. I looked at Ryan one last time. He didn't speak. I didn't need him to. That night, I sat alone in the living room. The silence was strange without Ryan. No TV buzzing in the background, no glass clinking in the kitchen. Just me, the ticking of the wall clock and the sound of my own breathing. And yet, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Control. Clarity. Let them worry now. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin. And I was ready. The next morning, the house was quiet. Not the tense kind of quiet it used to be, when Ryan would sulk in the next room, waiting for me to apologize for something he did. No, this was the quiet of absence. He was gone. His toothbrush, his shoes by the door, his cologne on the bathroom shelf, all gone. There was a small note on the kitchen table in his handwriting. I'll have my lawyer reach out. Sorry it ended like this. Not sorry for what he did, just sorry he got caught. I dropped the note in the trash without reading the rest. I stood there for a long moment, letting the silence fill my lungs. No ticking clock, no emails pinging, no footsteps overhead, just the hum of the refrigerator and the realization that it was over. And yet, in some strange way, it was only beginning. By noon, Meredith called. The judge reviewed the documents, she said. We've been granted a hearing date, 3 weeks from now. And Camille, the notary? She's fully on board, has copies of her logs, ID records, timestamps. It's airtight. Eleanor, this case is winnable. I thanked her and hung up, phone still in hand. Winnable. That word hadn't existed in my world for a long time. I drove back to the office that afternoon. Not Meredith's, mine. I hadn't been in for nearly a week. My inbox was overflowing, deadlines blinking at me like neglected plants begging for water. But none of it fazed me. One of the junior designers poked her head in. Hey, Eleanor? You okay? Heard you had some kind of family thing. Family thing. Yeah, something like that. I'm good, I said. Better than I've been in years. And I meant it. That evening, I didn't go home. I drove south. Just past sunset, I pulled up in front of the house in Alabama. My house. The porch light still worked. The screen door still creaked. Everything was still dusty and crooked. But now it felt like mine. I stepped inside, flipped on the hallway light, and walked to the old desk in my father's study. The same desk where I'd found the will. I opened the bottom drawer again. Inside, the wooden box sat exactly where I left it. I pulled it out, lifted the lid, and looked at the envelope one last time. For Eleanor. There was no money inside. No final message. No closure wrapped in a bow. But I didn't need one. He'd left me what mattered most. The truth. And the strength to do something with it. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees. The old swing in the backyard swayed gently, creaking with memory. I sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, warm tea in my hands, and let the silence surround me, not heavy this time, but whole. Tears came, finally. Not from grief, not from anger. Just release. I had been underestimated, dismissed, but not anymore. Let them keep their silence. Let them scramble, negotiate, lawyer up. I had my story. I had the paper to prove it. And I had a judge who would soon read every word. And after that, Matt wouldn't be the one holding power. The truth would be. I leaned back in the chair and let myself breathe. Deep, slow, steady. No more pretending. No more swallowing the truth. And no more letting men decide what I was worth. Tomorrow, I'd head back. I'd meet with my lawyer. I'd prepare for the hearing. I'd build my case. But tonight, I'd sit here, in this house, my father's house, my house, and I would rest. For the first time in a long, long time.
If this story moved you, there's more to come. Subscribe and don't miss the next turning point.